In Genesis, the 12th chapter, we begin to find the solution to the problem of sin. And it is a solution that God provides, not something that man thought up, not something that man implemented, but something that God provided for mankind. And God begins to reveal that provision in Genesis chapter 12. While the subject of what's going on in Genesis chapter 12 is going to be the promise to Abraham, we're going to look at in just a moment. Genesis chapter 12, turn to that passage. The lessons that I'm presenting are really just some selected parts of a course I teach on Old Testament history and geography. When I teach my students, I tell them, and I guess I'll do that this summer too, that there are 5 key passages that you can kind of organize the whole story of the Old Testament around. 5 key passages that summarize the whole story of the Old Testament. And 2 of those 5 key passages occur right here very early on. Genesis chapter 3, where we are introduced to the fundamental problem that all the Bible is designed to deal with, the problem of sin that has brought man into curse and the curse of death. And then in Genesis chapter 12, the beginning of the solution, the promise that God makes to Abraham. That promise is first recorded here in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. I want you to look at this with me, and as we're looking, it's like, what is the key word in this promise? It's not the word promise itself, but the key word in the promise. So we begin in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. It says, "Now the Lord said to Abram, Go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. And I will make your name great, and so you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed." Now, as you look at those 3 verses, what do you think is really the key word? What word is repeated more than any other? Well, of course, it's the word blessing. And you see how Genesis chapter 12 begins to form the counterpart to Genesis chapter 3. In Genesis chapter 3, we have the problem. Man lives under the curse of sin, the curse of death. But now, God is going to provide a blessing in place of the curse. Man's sin has brought a curse. But now God is going to provide a blessing. And in the unfolding context, that blessing is going to have to be the solution to the problem of sin. Some means of forgiveness of sin that will enable man to be joined back in fellowship to God once again. And of course, once he's joined back to God, God's his creator, the source of his life. And then he'll find life that overcomes death, the death that has come because of sin. And so, in this chapter, we have the promise to Abraham and the beginning of the solution to sin. Now, people, we talk about the Bible, and we say, well, it's basically a book about the Jews. Why is the Bible basically a book about the Jews? Well, because of this passage right here. From this point on, all of the rest of the Bible is going to focus on the descendants of Abraham. Because God said to him right here, he was going to bless him and make him into a great nation. That great nation that descended from Abraham, the people that we know today as the Jews. And not only that, he says that it's going to be in you that all the families of the earth will be blessed. The solution that God is going to provide for all nations, for all families on the earth, is going to come through Abraham and through his descendants. And so from this point on, the Bible ignores all the rest of the nations. Now, up until this point, the Bible has given us sort of a history of all mankind. But from this point on, it's going to be about the descendants of Abraham. Now, other nations will be mentioned, but only as they relate to the descendants of Abraham, the children of Israel, or the people that we know today as the Jews. Not only that, they say, well, the Bible's all about place over there, Palestine. People call it the Holy Land. And say, why is the Bible just about that little part of the world? Well, because that's the part of the world, that little country over there is the land that God promised to Abraham right here. He said, come to the land that I'm going to show you. That's the land where his descendants would live. And so from this point on, all of the rest of the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, focuses on those descendants of Abraham living there in that land of Canaan, came to be known as the land of Israel, living there as God carries out this promise that he makes to Abraham. This promise through him and through his descendants to bring the blessing to all mankind, the blessing in place of the curse as a result of sin. Now, you think about that, and suddenly things start to make sense in the Bible. Why is the Bible about the Jews? Why is the Bible about that little chunk of land over there in the Middle East that is always such a political hotspot and everything? Because of what God said right here. He chooses this fellow Abraham, and through his seed all the nations of the earth are going to be blessed.